All right, let's get into it. Artificial intelligence, it's everywhere, right? It's changing how we work, how we live, pretty much everything. Now, it promises to make things incredibly efficient and innovative, but with all that power comes some serious responsibility. So today, we're going to dive into a framework for building AI that's not just smart, but also responsible. Let's figure out how to get this right. You know, this question really hits the nail on the head. For pretty much any company out there today, this is the dilemma. If you nail it, you unlock some incredible value. But if you get it wrong, well, the consequences can be huge. It's like walking a tightrope between breakthrough innovation and serious risk. Okay, so before we even start talking about the how, we've got to understand the landscape. Let's break down what's actually at stake here, both the amazing rewards you can get and the pretty significant risks you're facing. Now, what's so interesting here is how the good stuff just cascades. Think about it. When your customers trust your tech, they're going to stick with you. When regulators see you're doing things the right way, you get a green light faster. And inside your own company, you attract the best people and build a culture they actually want to be a part of. It's a true win-win-win situation. And then there's the flip side. These risks, they aren't just hypotheticals on a whiteboard. They have real painful costs. We're talking about massive lawsuits because of biased results, brand damage that can be impossible to fix, and customers just walking away. In today's world, a slip-up in ethics is a straight-up business failure.
So, we know the stakes are high. How do we build AI systems that actually get us those rewards and steer clear of the risks? Well, it all starts with a foundation built on a few core principles. Let's look at the absolute backbone of any responsible AI system.
First up, fairness. And this isn't some fuzzy, feel-good idea. In the world of AI, it means something very, very specific. It means the system's error rates have to be the same no matter what demographic group you're looking at. If you don't have this, you end up with discrimination, which hurts people and, you guessed it, hurts your business. The AI has to work just as well for everybody, period.
Next, you got transparency. I mean, if an AI turns you down for a loan, you have to be able to ask, why? This principle says that the logic behind those automated decisions has to be understandable or interpretable. If it's just a black box, there's zero trust and no way for someone to challenge a bad call. And that's just not acceptable when people's lives are on the line.
And that brings us perfectly to the third principle, accountability. You know, technology doesn't just exist in a void. For every single decision an AI makes, some person or some team has to be the one who's ultimately responsible. Because when things go wrong, and sometimes they will, you need to know who's in charge of fixing it. The buck has to stop with a person, not with the algorithm. So you've got fairness, transparency, and accountability. These are the three main pillars. But what's the foundation holding it all up? It's all about protecting our data. Without solid data privacy and security, none of these other principles really stand a chance. This isn't just an IT problem, it's the bedrock of ethical AI. So how do we actually build that foundation? Well, it boils down to a pretty clear four-step process. First, minimize your data collection. Just only collect what you absolutely need. Second, encrypt everything everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's flying across a network or just sitting in a database. Third, use advanced techniques to protect individual people's privacy within the data. And finally, you have to be proactive. You've got to constantly stress test your system to make sure it's secure. Okay, so we've got our principles, but principles on a slide are one thing. How do we take them from the conference room and actually bake them into the code? Let's move on and see how this becomes a real practical thing. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is the daily work of making AI ethical. It means you're actively hunting for bias before a model ever sees the light of day. It means you know exactly where your data came from. You keep something called a living model card. Think of it like a nutrition label for your AI that explains what it's for and what its limits are. And you build everything to be ready for an audit from day one. And this isn't just some academic exercise. Take a look at Eurocar. They involved their frontline workers in the design and they kept testing for bias. And what happened? They built a chatbot that wasn't just faster, it gave everyone in the company fair, more equal access to information. That's what this looks like in the real world. And that brings us to a super important point, making sure there's meaningful human control. It's not enough to just build a good system and walk away. You have to manage it responsibly. That means keeping a human in the loop for the really high-stakes calls. It means logging every time a person overrides the AI so you can learn from it. You have to give people a clear way to appeal a decision. And finally, you have to recheck the model regularly to make sure it's still safe and accurate. So where is all of this going? Well, Building ethical AI isn't a one-and-done project for a single company. It's an ongoing, collective thing that is literally shaping our future.
And the good news is we're starting to see the world get on the same page. Major frameworks like the EU's AI Act and the standards from NIST over in the US, they're all starting to line up around these same core ideas. This is creating a kind of global baseline for what good looks like, and it's pushing everyone in the right direction. But let's be really clear about something. The job of shaping this future, it doesn't just belong to the folks writing the code or the people writing the laws. No, it's much, much bigger than that. Because at the end of the day, this is a team sport. It takes everyone working together. You need the developers who build the tools, the business leaders who decide how to use them, the policymakers who set the rules of the road, and well, all of us, the people who actually use these systems and are affected by them every day. We all have a part to play in this.
And so, that leaves us with this final, really critical question. There's absolutely no doubt that AI will be one of the defining forces of our time. The only real question is, who gets to decide what it becomes? The answer has to be all of us. That's the shared responsibility we have. Thanks for joining this explainer.